श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय राधा माधवा, जय कुंज बिहारी, जय गोपी जनवल्लभा, जय गिरिवरधारी, जय गिरिवरधारी, जय यशोदा नंदना, जय व्रज जनरंजना, जय यमुना तीर वनचारी, जय कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधवा, जय कुंज बिहारी। श्री श्री राधा माधव की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। You sing Sri Vrinda Devi Ashtakam by Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur, and it's from Stavamrita Lahari. Gange achampeya tadid vinindi, rochi pravaha stapitatma vrinde, bandhuka bandhu dyuti divyavaso, vrinde namaste charanarvindam, bimbadarodit varamandahasya, नासाग्रमुक्ता द्युतिदीपितास्ये, विचित्ररत्नाभरणश्रियाधे, वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्, समस्तवैकुण्ठशिरोमणौ श्री कृष्णस्य वृन्दावनधन्यधाम्नि, दत्ताधिकारे वृषभानुपुत्र्या, वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्, त्वदाज्ञया पल्लवपुष्पभृङ्ग मृगादिभिर्माधवकेलिकुञ्ज, मध्वादिभिर्भान्ति विभूष्यमाणा, वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्, त्वदीयदूतेन निकुञ्जयूनो अत्युत्कयोकेलिविलाससिद्धिः, त्वत्सौभगं केन निरुच्यतां तत्, वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्, रासाभिलाषो वसतिश्च वृन्दा वने त्वदीशाङ्घ्रिसरोजसेवा, लभ्या च पुंसां कृपया तवैव, वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् त्वं कीर्त्यसे सात्वतन्त्रविद्भिः लीलाभिधाना किल कृष्णशक्ति तवैव मूर्तिस्तुलसी नृलोके वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् भक्त्या विहीनापराधलक्षै क्षिप्ताश्च कामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वां शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् वृन्दाष्टकं यः शृणुयात् पठेत् वा वृन्दावनादिशः पदाब्जभृङ्ग स प्राप्य वृन्दावन नित्यवासं तत्प्रेम सेवां लभते कृतार्थ। वृंदा देवी की जय, श्रीला विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: You are bathed by streams of splendor that rebuke gold, lightning, and the champaka flower. Your splendid garments are friend to the banduka flower. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. Your face is splendid with the pearl decorating the tip of your nose, and a wonderful gentle smile on your bimba fruit lips. You are decorated with wonderful jewel ornaments. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. Vrishabhanu's daughter Radha made you guardian of Krishna's opulent and auspicious abode of Vrindavana, the crest jewel of all Vaikuntha planets. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. By your order, the groves where Madhava enjoys pastimes are splendidly decorated with blossoming flowers, bumblebees, deer, honey, and other things. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. Because you became their messenger, the eager and youthful divine couple enjoyed the perfection of transcendental pastimes in the forest. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. By your mercy, the people attained residence in Vrindavana. The desire to serve your master's lotus feet and the desire to assist in the rasa dance. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. They who are learned in the Sattvata Tantra glorify you. You are Krishna's pastime potency, the tulsi plant in your form in the world of men. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. O merciful one, they who have no devotion and they whom millions of offenses have thrown into the waves of lust and other vices take shelter of you. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. A person who is like a bumblebee at the lotus feet of Vrindavana's king and queen, and who reads or hears this Vrindashtaka, will eternally reside in Vrindavana and attain loving service to the divine couple. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Come back. So, first we offer our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Manavishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय श्री प्रभुपाद। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम पदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरतिशे नमः। O most magnificent incarnation, you are Krishna himself, appearing as Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden complexion of Srimati Radharani, and you are widely distributing pure love of Krishna. We offer respectful obeisance unto you. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangapangostra Parshadam Yagnai Sankirtana Prayer Yajanti Su Medasa. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform the congregational chanting to worship the Godhead, incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. शास्त्र विचारणैक निपुणौ षडधर्म संस्थापकौ लोकानां हितकारिणौ त्रिभुवने मान्यौ शरण्याकरौ राधा कृष्ण पदारविन्द भजना आनन्देन मत्तालिकौ वन्दे रूप सनातन रघुयुगौ श्री जीव गोपालकौ। I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, namely Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Sanatan Goswami, Shri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami, Shri Jiva Goswami, and Shri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Narom Chaiv Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Shri Prabhupada, Jai Shri Bhagavad Govinda Madi Purusham Tam Bhajame. Again, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Shri Prabhupada. Welcome back. So today we'll be continuing with lesson 17. But before I begin lesson 17, let's hear the recap of lesson 16 that we did yesterday. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So I'll be doing a recap of 16. I'll try to maintain the times. So 5:44. Okay, so Prabhuji, yesterday, Hare Krishna everyone. Yesterday Charu Prabhuji explained basically lesson chapter 11 of Jaiv Dharma, which is called lesson 16. And there are two new characters introduced here. Basically, it's Vaishnava Pandit, Gorachand Babaji, and one Muslim mullah, is greatly same. He approaches, and there's a discussion. So discussion between one Islam scholar and a Hindu. As we see the title of this is title is Nitya Dharma and deity worship. It's a really nice. Charu Prabhuji explained so nicely the basic concepts, difference between how the Hindus look at it, deity worship, and how Islam looks at it, deity worship. Is one of the beauty of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, bringing different aspects within the Hinduism as well as other outside Hinduism. This is what we are looking. So primarily there are 5-6 points discussed. So I'll just go through recap and high points, and then maybe we'll just try to touch some more important points. First thing is the deity worship, which is condemned in Islam. Allah mentions that those who worship deities should be punished. That is what is there. That is one part. Second part is in Islam there is only one Allah. Allah is the great, and so there cannot be any other gods. Whereas in Hinduism we have multiple gods. This is another thing. They believe those in Islam believe those who worship deities is called Satan. Our worshippers in Islam also they're labeled as a Satan, and these people are condemned there. That is third point. Fourth point, they say, how can you worship? Even if you worship, it's a material form of deities and material form. How you reach Allah is beyond transcendental. How can you reach to Him using this material form? And they also mentioned that it's better to meditate in the mind than in worshipping material form. That is what is there. And so these are the highlighted point and arguments from from Hindu is that yes, deity worship is condemned in Islam, but in Hinduism, deity worship for newbie devotee is a stepping stone. If it takes us, it connects with maybe initially with material elements, seeing that, but with as he served the deities with an associated devotees and hearing about the Lord's pastime, one transcends that. Allah, Krishna is the transcendental; he is beyond time and space. But this is the stepping stone which assists. So this is the argument made from Hinduism, and this is one of the 9 devotional services mentioned. So there is no problem. Second thing is a multiple God. In Hinduism also there is one God which is called Supreme Personality God, Sri Krishna. All other are 330 million. They are a demigod assisting him. So this is again myth. Other people do not understand. There is one God. Islam also says that there is one Allah Akbar. He is the supreme. He is the greatest. Yes, we believe that we have a similar to Allah is a Bhagwan, which has got 6 appearances in full. One of them attribute is his greatness. So they are missing other attributes of the Lord where we belong. We have Krishna is a person. In also Hinduism, there is a personal, impersonal, it's Achin Vedanta, but both points to these are attribute, both are towards the same. So Krishna is a Satchit Ananda Vigra. He is a Supreme Personal God. He is a person. He is a transcendental. But we have means using deity worship to reach to him. And as a devotee progresses, he doesn't see this material form. He sees a spiritual in association with the devotees and hearing the pastime. So he transcends that. So this is the stepping stone mentioned. Another is Satan, because it bites. As in Islam said that Satan, those who worship, deities are called Satan, and Satan basically binds in the material world. But belief in Hinduism is the binding or conditioning of the person is a forgetful of his sambandh again about Lord, who is eternal relation. He is a supreme Lord, and we are his eternal servant. So the conditioning is because of forgetful nature, and we need to revive. And deity worship helps in that process. It's a genuine process. It helps. So these are some of these points mentioned. I'll just go to 6 questions are there very, very quickly. Okay. Where is that? So very first question is there are three. It's first question is okay. Sorry, just 1 minute. Okay, so why Hindu scripture instruct multiple God? We discuss about it. Why not meditate on that's question one? Why not meditate on in the mind than worshipping? It's a material, the deity which is a material that is there. And the third was when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, he removed all that faults in the Hindu. So he brought Achinta Beda impersonal and personal together, but he still allowed the deity worship to go. So that is where it started with first. And we also, Prabhuji mentioned, to answer to their one Allah, we have the Bhagwan, as I mentioned very quickly on that. We have more attributes, 6 attributes for Bhagwan. Then you talk about only greatness of the Allah, so they are missing other attributes. It is inconceivable potency that Bhagwan is both personally impersonal. And so they call basically deity worship is viewed, so which is it's even though it's a material, but it's a stepping stone for Hinduism. Second question was to worship and meditate on Allah imagined form is the work of Satan. As I mentioned, that is their belief. Satan binds us in material world, whereas Hinduism, the deity which is stepping stones, even though it's a material, it takes us beyond that. When one devotee listens, worships the deities in association with the devotees and hears the pastimes of the Lord, that transcends. Then the question third, we hear that the Chaitanya Mahaprabhus we discussed. That was question one. So let's go to the question two. It's very important. Why not worship in mind? Though even instead of worshipping in material form, and answer to that is Lord is a transcendent, is a beyond time and space. So to approach him, the process given is worshipping deities, and that as he as he further progresses, he develops relation with the Lord, that someone can, and that transcends. Okay, so question three. Supreme Lord is different from matter, true. And Satan introduced the worship of the material things to trap the souls. And our belief, as I mentioned, Acharya Prabhuji explained very nicely. Satan is in our definition, the reason why we condition is that we have forgotten our eternal relation with the Lord and serving him, and that condition and not any other thing. Okay, so that is there. Question 4. Deity worship is not good for attaining love of the God. It's simply fills with the mind. Yes, it's even though initially devotee can see a Lord with a material element, but as he worship, he transcends that and sees the spiritual form of the deities and serves with someone gyan in that. And the last question was, if one already has a love of God, then there is no fault in worshipping his deity form. However, how can the worship of snake and monkeys, those things come? So they don't have really concept of how the Lord appears. Their concept is impersonal Lord, and Islam, they don't understand. We need a faith. And instead of it's better to worship, again, another concept, when you see wonders in this world, like the sun, and Prabhuji gave a big waterfalls or something, we bow down. So this is the process. This is the process. So there's nothing wrong in worshipping. And the last question is and it's really hitting very hard is that they believe that you have multiple God. Shouldn't everything that worship is a God, and worship of anything is also worship of God? Is the worship of sins worship of God? So, and is the worship of sinful desires also worship of God? And is the God pleased by any kind of worship? And these were, again, everything was clear in the early, but I think they have a concept, still, he had the person who came, Islamic scholar, he has material, he cannot transcend. And this is why, again, the questions were coming. And all these questions were repeated by Vaishnava Acharya. And he says, no, everything is God is wrong. God is different from whatever you see. These are his energies. So I'm created by the Lord. Again, so there was a good conversation and discussion of why worshipping the Lord, even though it's a material, assist us to transcend. Since the God is a transcendental, helps us to transcend and reach to Him in a loving service. He is Satchidananda Vigraha, and there is only one God. So against the myth of multiple gods in Hinduism, I think this is what it comes up, and at the end, the discussion ends with that. Vaishnavas do not waste time, on this fruitless exercise, discussion, debate. Out of humility, said, since you have come, we had a chat, and I think we should not go further on that. This is what was there in nutshell, Prabhuji, and I think this is what, if anything is missing, please let me know. Thank you, Prabhuji. Charan Prabhuji.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. That's a really remarkable improvement.
Yeah, thanks.
Practice makes perfect, As you practice more and more, you open up public speaking, you will improve definitely. I'm very happy that you did pretty good job today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Except for obeisances for Srila Prabhupada. Welcome back. So Prabhuji just nicely recapped lesson 16. So now we come to lesson 17. Incidentally, lesson 17 is the last lesson, chapter 12, the last chapter of this part 1. So next weekend onwards, we will begin with part 2, a very, very important section of that part 2, Dasamula Tattva, or the Sambandha Jnana, Abhideya, Prayojana. So these very, very important lessons, beginning from lesson number 18 to going all the way to lesson number 33, will be conducted, so graciously accepted. Sharath Prabhuji has already accepted. He will deliver those classes. So today is my last lesson until after he finishes. So let's get done. So now you see in this familiar slide, the yellow box shows us that this is lesson 17, chapter 12, and that is about the discussion of the Nitya Dharma, the eternal Dharma of the living, of the soul, spirit soul, in the context of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Okay, that is the regulated practice of devotional service. So that we will see, it's a very, very important lesson. There are very, very significant, important take-home instructions for all of us. So here are the 4 themes in this lesson. Number 1, so obviously we are being talking about the debates, the discussion between different personalities, that is through which Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur teaching us some important siddhantas in this devotional service. So here we have 2 individuals. One is Vrajanath Bhattacharya. So those 2 characters we are introduced to. So Vrajanath Bhattacharya is the one who is going to be asking questions to another character, that is Raghunath Das Babaji. Raghunath Das Babaji is a very, very significant personality. In fact, Raghunath Das Babaji took instructions from Raghunath Das Goswami, who, remember, we did his Mana Siksha. So Raghunath Das Goswami is one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. So Raghunath Das Babaji, their names sound very similar, right? So Raghunath Das Babaji took personal instructions from Raghunath Das Goswami. So he was the contemporary of Raghunath Das Babaji, Raghunath Das Goswami, the one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. So we will see the introduction of Rajnath Bhattacharya first theme. Second theme, Rajnath is now meeting with Raghunath Das Babaji. Okay. And then after the third theme is the introduction of Raghunath Babaji himself, his background, and how advanced personality he is. And the fourth one, then this the dialogue taking place with Rajnath, who is receiving preliminary guidance in the principles of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Okay. And the sadhya. So there is a sadhana and sadhya. Sadhana is the practice to attain a particular goal. The goal is called sadhya, the ultimate goal of such practice. So that we will see in these 4 themes. So first, it's important to know where from this Rajnath Bhattacharya comes from. He is the resident of Mayapur. So I showed this slide before also in the context, some other context, but to show you again these 9 islands that's called the Navadvipa, that's in Bengal. Okay, so that's shown right here. The Antardvipa is the center. That is where Mayapur is located, and then there are other 8 islands are there surrounding it to it. Now we are going to focus for today's talk this particular island, which is northeast of Antardvipa, and it's called Simantadvipa. Okay, so actually these 9 islands are represented as a particular world of lotus flower. So in the center, which is the world, is where Antardvipa is located, and that is where Mayapur Dharma is there, and these other 8 islands surrounding to it is like petals of a lotus flower. And interesting thing is that each of these petals are representative of each of the elements of Navada Bhakti, the 9-fold devotional service. So today we are going to be talking about Simanta Dvipa, that represent the first and the most important element of Navada Bhakti. Simply hearing about the Lord and his devotees and their interaction, their pastimes together, that itself, simply we hear, we come to more goodness, sattva guna, and sattvam sanjayate jnanam, sattvam yad brahmadarshanam. Only through the mode of goodness we derive the transcendental knowledge, we become receptive, and only through sattva guna we are it's possible for us to become self-realized. So unless we get cleared of the lower modes of material nature, it's very difficult. So symbolically, each of these 8 islands surrounding to the central island is representative of this 9-fold devotional service. The final goal, the Atma Nivedana, that is what this Antardvipa Mayapur Dham represents. That offers the Lord everything, entire, the very self, Atma Nivedana. So we are, as I told you, we are going to focus on this Simanta Dvipa, that is the representative of hearing about the Lord and his pure devotees. Okay, so that's what I'm going to show you in the next slide. So this is I have blown up Simanta Dvipa, which is in the north of Antardvipa. So this is what it is, okay? And in that center of that, there's a temple of Simanta Devi, okay? And north of this temple is this Bilva Pushkarani, which is the the center of learning. Those great panditas coming from there, okay? And the south of this temple is called Brahmana Pushkarani. And all this region of the Bilva, this temple of Simanta Devi with these two Pushkaranis together is the village. The name of that village is Simulya Grama, or the village Simulya. This village is the home of many panditas, the learned personalities. And we saw the definition of who is Pandita. Pandita means who has great intelligence, okay, who have mastered a particular discipline of knowledge. So there are many, many Panditas, and that includes Sri Nilambara Chakravarti. As you all know from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nilambara Chakravarti is the father of Mother Sachi Devi, okay? And Sachi Devi's son is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, okay? This is where nearby the home of Rajanath Bhattacharya is located, who is one of the principal character that we are going to hear about, okay? He is the one very, very well trained in this Nyaya Shastra, or the science of logic, of course, that's material logic. And he is so expert. So in this slide, the part of this slide, which is the theme 1, in which we are going to be introduced, who is Vrajanath Bhattacharya, also known as aka Nyaya Panchanana. Nyaya means that I told you about, it's logic, science of logic, and it's Panchanana, the five-headed, means he has the fivefold knowledge of that particular science of material logic. And look at his qualification, very, very impressive. He is a born Vedic Brahmana and a learned scholar in logical science, Nyaya Shastra, and he was trained in this Bilva Pushkarani Learning Center, just like Varanasi, Banaras used to be a great learning center for the Mayavad philosophy. The second point, all the famous Panditas, all the famous learned personalities, they were embarrassed and frustrated by Vrajanath's immense skill in newer and newer logical arguments that he used to put forward and defeat them, all of them. So they were obviously very angry, but they couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't defeat Vrajanath Bhattacharya. And in fact, he became a Digvijay. Who is called Digvijay? Dig means the universe, the entire world. He won in all debates. He was such a scholar. Nobody could defeat him. And by that time, he was only 21 years old. Such young age, he mastered the logic of science. And his whole life was nothing but logic. He used to eat, breathe, sleep, logic. He was that committed. Now what happened? Look at that. He never thought, in fact, he was so engrossed in logic that he was literally breathing logic, science of logic all the time. Okay? That he never thought material affairs about that, nor he was concerned about spiritual life. Neither of that. Day and night he was breathing this science of logics until he studied and realized about Nimai Pandita. Now, you know, all of course know, Nimai Pandita is the childhood name of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and who himself was a great a logician. Okay, so when he heard the great logical skill of Nimai Pandita, and Nimai Pandita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at that time was just a mere child, and he was running the school of the logic he was teaching. So when he came across and studied the logic of Nimai Pandita, he himself was felt himself so dwarf, pale compared to Nimai logic. So in fact, he became a great follower. So initially he followed Nimai Pandita. He wanted to study the science of logic from the teachings of Nimai Pandita. Okay. And look, behold, lo and behold, he became a devotee to such an extent he forgot all about logic, which he was breathing day and night. Amazing thing. He came to the devotional platform. He became a steadfast devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Always chanted the holy name. And he was now a changed man. Dramatically, remarkably, revolutionary, he changed his life. Okay. He no longer interested in logic. Logic was his life beforehand, right? Now he didn't care about logic. And Rajanath became very polite and gentle. So that's what happens when you come to a devotional platform. The humility is the first quality that develops in a devotee. He is not proud of anything. Rajanath before, he was very, very proud about his skills and became a Digvijay, the winner of the entire universe in the science of logic. Totally forgot about that. And now he became very polite, very humble, and very gentle, and always seeking sadhu sangha. And remember, sadhu sangha is the lifeline if you want to make progress in devotional science. In this, our online classes that we conduct, that promotes, in fact, Prabhupada established Krishna conscious movement. The primary mission of that to foster, promote the discipline, the interaction with the higher and higher, more advanced devotees. And that's how you want to make progress on the path of devotional service. So this is what happened to Brajnath. And he felt himself incomplete. That is why he sought the association of advanced souls. That's where he heard about this particular second character that we are going to be introduced, and that is Raghunath Das Babaji, a very elderly personality. And Rajanath Bhattacharya, aka Nyaya Panchayana, he became greatly attracted in his mind. His mind was occupied, and he was eagerly waiting to meet Raghunath Das Babaji and learn from him the intricacies of pure devotional service, especially how to cultivate, how to develop devotional service from the very beginning. Because if you don't have that pure devotional service, then you need to cultivate by practice according to the rules and regulation. And that is all everything about Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So he wanted to learn Bhakti Shastra from Raghunath Das Babaji. Okay. So he reasoned that so far he just taught Mantavya, because this material logic logical science, but of course, the material platform, that's a mental activity. Thinking about it, okay? It's all about mental activity. So in Sanskrit, it's called mantavya. But now he thought more than that, mental speculation or thing. It's more important to hearing about the devotional science. And so he now must hear. So that is called Shrotavya, not Shrotamantavya. Shrotavya, there's a typo here. About him, about him means what? About the Supreme Lord. So thinking, not thinking, but actually hearing about the Supreme Personality Godhead, Bhagavan Shri Krishna. And even more effective to hear from Lord Krishna's pure devotees, saintly devotees, such as Raghunath Das Babaji. So this is his characteristics about Brajanath. He was a scholar, but now he willingly become a student, wanted to learn about devotional science. So he set out to meet Raghunath Das Babaji. So here that this slide is all about how he happens to meet Raghunath Das Babaji. So that very same evening that when he made that decision, near the sunset, he set out to meet Raghunath Das Babaji in the courtyard of Srivasa. Now the book says Srivasa, so I'm assuming it is Srivas Pandita, okay? One of the Panchtattvas of the close associate, confidential associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he was the contemporary of that. So he went and in Srivas Pandit's courtyard, the great Kirtana was going on. At that time, the Vaishnavas had begun their Arati and Kirtana, evening Kirtana. And hearing watch that when he started hearing that, Brajanath's heart become completely softened. So now that means we all know softening of the heart. When does it take place? Madhurya Kadambini. Anybody want to volunteer? When does that take place? Anybody wants to volunteer? Because you all heard Madhurya Kadambini. You should be able to tell that. When does heart become softened to get the ecstatic symptoms, ecstatic powers? Anybody?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. When we
Yes.
hear more and more with Sadhu Sangha and we cultivate the humility.
No, you're forgetting those those steps. Beginning with Adav Shraddha, that sloka.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So when does devotee progresses and then his
Nishtha.
heart becomes softened?
Nishtha, Prabhuji.
No. Anybody else?
Yeah, Prabhuji, it's a
Yep.
bhava. When somebody hears hearing and chanting with a bhava, he reaches to that. That is where the heart softens.
Exactly. You are getting at it. So when this Adav Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Nishtha Bhakti, and then onwards all the way going to the Bhava Bhakti. So up to Bhava Bhakti, it's a Sadhana Bhakti. And that Bhava Bhakti, the heart becomes very softened. And then all the ecstatic symptoms develop. And Bhava Bhakti is the very next step to the Prema, ultimate goal, Prema Bhakti. Okay. So obviously, at that point, look at that. Brajanath, until then, he did not come that. His heart did not become softened. He became very, very attracted to Bhakti process. But that point when he saw an advanced soul, and that is what exactly happens. When we saw such an advanced soul, their aura transmits to the surrounding, all his surroundings become surcharged with that. And this what happened to Rajanath's heart. He came to Bhava Bhakti level. So now he wanted to learn all about this Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. He immediately became really ecstatic, So around the same time, as the elderly Raghunath Das Babaji also entered in the same courtyard of Srivas Pandit. So all the Vaishnavas greeted him, and of course because he's the elderly learned personality, so they all bowed down, Dandavat Sakshat, Dandavat Pranam. And when Rajinath saw that, he also immediately offered his obeisances. The third point, now look at what happened to the Raghunath Das Babaji. He saw the effulgence, the effulgence of the knowledge was there on the face of Rajinath. He recognized that. And Babaji really embraced him, and humbly inquired. Babaji is a very senior elderly personality, great scholar himself, but he saw that Rajinath, immediately he also felt that some feelings of emotions toward Rajinath, and he embraced him, not knowing who this personality is. Okay, and what happened then? Noticing the effulgence of Rajinath's face, the Babaji embraced him and humbly inquired who he was. He asked, "Please tell me, Baba, who are you?" But before Baba said anything, all the other Vaishnavas, some of them recognized who Rajinath Bhattacharya was. His recognition, his scholarly talent in the science of logic exceeded him. So they said, he is none, Raghunath Babaji, he is none other than the greatly famous personality whose skills in the Nyaya Shastra even dwarf all the great Panditas. No one could defeat him. He is that personality. And they themselves felt themselves like fools. He made them fools, feel like fools. So Babaji, in a great humility, tells him, because at that time Rajinath asked him that, truthfully, Babaji, I was born a Brahmana. So now that's the point 5. Babaji, when he heard, he said, Baba, you are a great Pandita, as I'm just hearing, and we are poor fools. How can we teach you? It is you who should instruct us. A great learned personality, look at his humility. Such great personality, they never think that they are great. They think they are lower than even a blade of grass, and this touched the heart of Brajnath. So Brajnath is saying, "Oh, saintly Babaji, I was a Brahmana." Look at when the humility develops, you expose yourself, you bare your soul, and you feel so lowly. That's what Brajnath is saying. Baba, I was a Brahmana. Babaji, I was a Brahmana, born Brahmana. So I developed this false pride that I'm learned personality. It's in my blood now, that I see the entire world as my own possession. I developed this false pride that I realize now, how did I become fortunate? But now look at what he says, that mark his words. How did I become fortunate that I now have some faith in your saintly character? We learn again in Madhurya Kadambini. How do you get sadhu sangha? When you have done some good sakriti, right? Agyata sakriti, and you have that great fortune, and that fortune lets Krishna brings an advanced sadhu in your life. So that is what happened to Rajnath. And he recognized that now I become fortunate to now happen to meet such a saintly person as you are, and I develop faith in your character and your actions and in your lila, last times. How can I know that? I wish to ask few questions if you would let me permit. But the Nyaya Shastra gave me no answers. All my life full of study, I did not find the answers I'm looking for now. So very humbly, he also reciprocated to Babaji, and Babaji was very pleased by that, and he was ready to answer the queries of Rajanath. So now we are going to hear that dialogue taking place between them. So this is theme 3. Now we'll hear a little bit about Raghunatha's Babaji. Okay, he is an elderly personality and was very wise, who had lived at Sri Radha Kunda. Remember, Raghunath Das Goswami also lived all his life in near Radha Kunda. Now, we learned from Mana Siksha, Sri Mana Siksha. So there he took shelter at the lotus feet of Raghunath Das Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. The second point, Raghunath Das Babaji had spent every afternoon personally listening to Lord Chaitanya's pastimes from Raghunath Das Goswami. Many times Raghunath Das Babaji, and remember, another is contemporary Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He is the one who compiled Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he was also a contemporary. So both would discuss the spiritual truth and inquire from Raghunath Das Goswami. So if and when in doubt, they both would seek answers from Raghunath Das Goswami, the 6 Goswamis, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Third point, at that time, Raghunath Das Babaji was the most prominent of all the Panditas Babajis in that time. Okay, many of the times he and Premadas Babaji, of course, we all know who is Premadas Babaji, right? Premadas Babaji, Parabhamsa Premadas Babaji, the topmost, who is from Godruma. So they would often discuss with Premadas Babaji of Godruma the nature of pure spiritual love for the Lord. So Raghunath Babaji was very happy to answer Rajnath's questions. So now Rajnath is going to begin asking him questions, and Raghunath Babaji is going to answer. And not only this lesson, this chapter, but this discussion between these 2 great personalities is going to continue in the second part of the book that Sharad Prabhuji is going to scholarly conduct. So this discussion will continue. So we are here. What we are going to hear, some fundamental basic questions of Vaidhi Bhakti, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Okay. So here, what I'm listing in this slide, and these 5 questions. Actually, the first 4 questions are the most important. Okay, but the 5th question is also not less important. So, first question he asked: what is the goal of life? Ultimate goal of life? What ought to be, and how do we attain it? Okay, so the goal is called sadhya, and the process by which we attain is called sadhana. Sadhana is practice. So question number 2. So here I'm listing all the questions, and then we will go through the answers Raghunath Babaji is providing, and it is going to be a little bit more and more complicated. Okay, so be attentive, and I'm going to be as slow as possible. Okay, but I got to cover a lot, and it seems like too complex. Complexity is apparently there, but if you really dive into it, it's not that difficult. Given the background of all of you have, all the courses we have conducted, it's not going to be that difficult. So the second question is this: this Rajnath. Remember, he was himself a scholarly personality, but his knowledge was still what is in Gujarati we call Pustak Jnana, bookish knowledge, material logic. Okay, so he cites many scriptural references. He says that many scriptural references state that devotional service is not the final goal. So Vrajnath is asking whether impersonal liberation is the final goal. Because remember, he is coming from that school. He was a born Brahmana. And that time, born Brahmana, they were taught the impersonal Brahman realization is the ultimate goal and merging with the Supreme. So Jnana Kanda, So third question is asking, is it possible that the great Mahavakya, this is again this Mahavakya word you hear from Mayavadis quite often. So is it possible that great Mahavakyas, the Vedas, Mahavakya means great sentences that are memorable sentences, okay? Very important statements of the Vedas. It's called Mahavakya. In fact, that originated from Shankaracharya. Describe only secondary goals and means. So again, the question is it possible that the great Mahavakyas of the Vedas describe only secondary goals and the means by which it is attained? The fourth question is asking, is first mentioning this Karma Kanda section of the Vedas and the Jnana Kanda section of the Vedas. They state that devotional service is one of the means of attaining sense gratification. Karma Kanda, they say. Okay. Because remember this, what is Karma Kanda? It's fruitive desires. So you do fruitive activities for sense gratification, material sense gratification. And Gyan is look for the knowledge, right? For impersonal liberation. But they all need to be sanctioned by the ultimate sanctioning authority, by the Supreme Lord. So that's why the devotional is there also important. That Vedas do talk about that. So that is what Vrajnath Bhattacharya is asking. That he heard that both Karmakanda and Jnanakanda sections of the Vedas do state that devotional service, bhakti, is one of the means of attaining sense gratification, respectively, and impersonal liberation. So, if it is so, how can devotional service be the final goal of life? Devotional service is the means by which you get Karmakanda goals or the Jnanakanda goals. So his question is very logical, because he's expert in logical science. So he's logically putting the question forward. So how do you then consider devotional service is the final goal? And then when the goal of the sense gratification and impersonal liberation is achieved, then are the means to get them discarded? So now they are no more required. Because listen, you want to work to really obtain $1 million, okay, and you do all the things, but when you got the $1 million, then the means by which you got $1 million is obviously no more needed. It should be discarded, right? So that is the point he's asking. That yes, the Shastra says, Karma Kanda section, in the Jnana Kanda section, that devotional service is needed to attain the goal of those two respective sections of the Vedas, okay? But once that is already achieved, the goal is achieved, don't we need to discard there is no more necessity, no more requirement of devotional service then? So please, I heard that, I was taught that, but please tell me clearly what is the truth behind that. That is what he's asking. Okay. And of course, question about why finally is asking about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that did he write any book, okay, on his teachings? Because he was well aware of Mahaprabhu's teachings. Okay, so he wanted to know, he wanted to get his hands, because he was so impressed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he wanted to get his hands on any book that might have been written by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. So he's asking that fifth question. So let's now go by one each of these questions and see the answers. Okay. So before that, let's take a short break. So you are all should be mentally ready to receive some very, very important instructions that are directly applicable even in this day and age in our lives. Haribol. So again, while you are relaxing, I just wanted you to make sure you can recall those steps that we learned in Madhurya Kadambini. What is that? Shraddha, Adau Shraddha, right? Then Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya leads to Nishtha Bhakti, right? Then Ruchi.
Anarsi Nivrutti,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
you develop, yeah, another Nivrutti, that lets another Nivrutti, Bhajana Kriya leads to another Nivrutti. And then you become steadiness with great determination to come to Nishtha Bhakti level. Then you develop a taste for it, right? Ruchi. And Ruchi progresses into Asakti. Ashakti means you develop an attachment for it. And these are the elements of Sadhana Bhakti. And then we come to the Bhava Bhakti level. Ultimately, Prema Bhakti. So remember, those are very, very important steps. You must learn it by heart. Even somebody wakes you up in the middle of your sleep, you should be able to recall that. They are directly applicable to our daily lives, devotional life. And they are very logically presented by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Madhurya Kadambini. Most important course, one of the most important course that we did. Yeah, my camera, the webcam was in the center of this monitor, huge monitor I have, 4 feet diagonal, and I kept it in the center. But when I give a talk, I like to see whom I'm addressing, and your pictures, video pictures, I see in the extreme right hand corner of my monitor. Okay, so it looked kind of odd, because the camera is in the center, and I'm looking in the extreme right side. So today, what I've done, I moved my webcam all the way to where your videos, I can see all of you, because I need to see some of you. Many of you don't show your videos, but it's very important for me to see you, then I get really energized to speak if I see the faces of you. Okay, the final minute. So now I shifted my camera there. So I hope Sanjay Prabhu is recording. Then it's better that my eyes are focused on the eye of the camera, because that's where I see your videos, all of you, the video photos. And of course, I have to see my slides. The slides in the center, but it's wide, so that I can see both. Okay, now get ready, please. Now we are going to talk about some very serious subject matter. Okay, so I want you to pay close attention and listen very carefully. Haribol. Okay, this slide now. So this is the first question. Okay, and what is that question? Again, I'm summarizing that question. Okay? And what is the goal of life and the way to attain it? And where goal is sadhya. And the means by which you attain, the process by which you attain, is sadhana. So, but 2-page discussion is there already. Okay, introductory things is there, and I'm bypassing, and I'm going to tell you. So, several pages, page 194 to 197, 4 pages, I'm summarizing in this one slide. Okay, so I'm going to have to explain that each of this. So the first point is making to answer that question. Again, what is the question? What is the final goal and how do you attain it? Okay. So here Babaji is saying that all the activities in relation to a particular goal and the method by which attaining that particular goal, the goal is sadhya and the process is sadhana. By which one attains this sadhana, by sadhana you attain that. So he's saying that people in general, they have a different kind of ideas, different kind of desires. Okay, so there are 3 main kind of people, broadly speaking. One, in the lowest rung, lowest level, are the one who is seeking material sense gratification. Enjoy. Life is meant for bas masti karo, maza karo. Ye unka goal hai, and the more and more money you make, more and more you can enjoy, and again, Kaj, Kamini and Pratishtha, this thing is there. Somebody wants material wealth, somebody wants beautiful women, and the third, the subtlest, it's difficult, is great fame, power and fame. So those are called bhukti. Bhukti means great enjoyment. Bhogna. Sanskrit word bhukti means, Hindi mein kehte hain bhogna, means to enjoy, to the greatest level, maximum level. जिंदगी मजा है, मस्ती करो, बाकी जिंदगी में रखा क्या है? कुछ नहीं है, मजा करो. ये उनकी ultimate goal, So material sense gratification is the goal, and not only in this life to the maximum level, but even when after this life you want to enjoy so much great, you want to go to the heavenly planets where the enjoyment is exponentially is increasing. Beautiful apsaras are there, heavenly damsels, all the material comforts, everything, no miseries, everything. So that is where they want to go, So this life and next life onwards, they think about that, and there's nothing else they can see. Okay? And then the other class of people who are a little bit more intelligent, they recognize that ultimately, no matter what kind of enjoyment you get, but everything ultimately ends in miseries. Nothing is eternal, because in material platform, there's a beginning, then there's the end. Look at the great personality in the United States, President Trump. He was born with a silver spoon, golden spoon, billionaire, and he received the highest power, President of the United States, top of the world, and look at what's happening now to him. So this is just today's example. I'm citing that. Devotees don't want to get into politics. I'm just citing, giving an example. What happens? One was born. He was a billionaire, and the highest level of power and fame he got that. But ultimately, what happened to him? He's now a criminal defendant. He had his mugshot in the jail taken. So while I was preparing this thing, I just saw with my eyes everything. That's the topmost practical example that you can see through your eyes what happens. Material, no matter greatest enjoyment you take, even when you go to the heavenly planet, what Bhagavad Gita said, Kshide Punya Shanti Mrittiloke, that you exist in heaven only as long as you have the bank balance of pious karmas, pious credits. When that gets depleted, you again have to come back to this earthly planet to again earn those pious credits. So there's a limitation. So that's why when this people, the other class of people, more intelligent, they recognize this thing. And they said, we don't want material miseries. How we can become liberated from these miseries of material existence? So let's get this liberation. But liberation what? Impersonal liberation. Merging with the Brahman, the Brahma Jyoti, the effulgence, Brahman effulgence, we want to merge with. That's what. So there means mukti. I think I made a mistake here. So the means is the goal is to impersonal liberation, and means by which this knowledge should be there. I'll correct that. Remember, I was working till the 10 minutes before the class began. So I told you that there are many typos will be there. So here I'm going to correct it, then I'll send you back again. So the goal is impersonal liberation. So get a knowledge, jnana, and that jnana is again mental speculation. This particular personality, Brajanath, he was trained as a Nyaya Shastra, science of logic. That's mental speculation. So that is what the means by which you get impersonal liberation, jnanis. So that is mukti. But even more important than that, the third, the highest level of intelligence is one who realized bhakti. So their goal is prema bhakti. And what is the means by which you get? Navada bhakti. So bhakti is both the goal and the means both. Bhakti begets bhakti. That's what it is. Okay, so now point B, having just explained basic things, there are three classes of people: bhukti, mukti, and bhakti. Okay? Very rhyming words. Okay, and there is a hierarchy in this all three. So that is what Baba is making very important point here. There is a just think about it in the link that you have. The mala, let's say the garland flowers are there connected on the thread, right? So here also like thing, sadhya and sadhana are like the link in a chain. So each segment is a linking to the next step, next to next step, like that. So there are many goals. In each goal become the sadhana of the next goal. Because when you achieve something, you want to even go higher. So the same thing that you process, the goal itself becomes sadhana for the next higher goal, like that. So there's a link in the chain. So the linking chains. So what at first is considered a goal. Now, for instance, let me give you the example about that sense gratification. the lowest level. So their goal is to enjoy most, right? And what is their sadhana? Is to continue doing fruitive activities. But that itself leads to the next goal. So their goal itself coming to the sense gratification, and then they become fed up with that. So that it itself becomes sadhana, a motivation factor to go to the next goal. Now he wants to become impersonal Brahman realization. But what happened? Previous goal that was sense gratification itself has become a sadhana, that become a causing factor, causative factor, that they realize the ultimate, no matter how the greatest level of enjoyment is there, it ultimately leads to material miseries. So that became a sadhana for him and got to level. But even the impersonal realization, Brahman realization, there also it develops the next goal. Because then he realizes, merging with the Brahman realization, Brahma Jyoti, you are committing a spiritual suicide, ending of the soul. But then he realizes that the soul is eternal. Soul can never ever die. There is no beginning, there is no birth, no death for the soul. Okay. Then he realizes that merging with the Supreme, why committing suicide? Why not I do bhakti process, come to the bhakti platform? So that itself become a causative factor, reasoning factor to learn, go develop the next goal. Why don't I? Because bhakti itself was needed to even at a lower level, because ultimate sanctioning authority is the Supreme Lord. Whatever you earn, to get that, you need to approach the Supreme Lord. Okay. So why don't I get the bhakti itself first? So that is ultimate. So each goal leads to another goal, another sadhana. So that the Shrinkala, Sanskrit we call it Shrinkala. Okay, each linking in the different in the chain itself, different links connected into the common thread. But ultimately, you come to that level, that goal. There is no further new goal involved. And that is called bhakti, the spirit of bhakti. There is no more next goal. Bhakti is the means, bhakti is the goal. So that is the third point. Continuing in this way, there is only one final goal, and that does not become the means of attaining another goal. So the final conclusion, bhakti is the final means, and the goal attained by bhakti is also bhakti. Because when you do bhakti, more and more you please, you become happy naturally to please the Supreme Lord, and you become interaction with him even after liberation. Liberation is just a byproduct. So liberation is no more is interested in that. He won't even, he goes to spiritual world, he wants to serve the Lord. If Lord descends in the material world, he wants to come with the Lord in the material world to assist and participate in his pastimes. So spiritual world is also not the goal of the bhaktas. They just want to associate with the Lord and serve him wherever the Lord goes. So I hope you understood this slide. It seemed like a complex slide, but in reality it's not if you dive in it. If you learn how to dive, then you can enjoy underwater. Okay, then so now we go to the next question. Citing many scriptural references. So he cites many scriptural references, the Vedas, and I'm not quoting that the particular scripture it is given here. Who is seer and who is sin? Then I am Brahman, Am Brahmasmi. Brahman is spiritual truth. You are that Tattvam Asi. Like that. So he quotes all the scriptural references, Vrajnath, and then he's asking, the goals are different according to so question is that all scriptural references citing, then his question is that which state that does devotional service is not the final goal. All the scriptural reference says The devotional service is not the final goal. Completely opposite to what we just heard, right? Brajanath asked whether impersonal liberation is the final goal, because his whole life, when he spent learning Nyaya Shastra, see, they that उसके मन में ठसा देते हैं कि तुम्हें ऐसे भगवान के ब्रह्मांड के साथ मर्ज होना है. That's all. In they are conditioned, dogmatized in the brain that this is the goal. They just merge with the supreme Brahman. That's what the Gyanis think about it. And he was on a Gyana platform up to that point. So that's what he's asking, that that the Shastra says, according to the Vedas, and now you will see how intelligently Babaji is answering that question, okay, countering that. He's saying that this particular sentence just says that devotional service is not the ultimate goal. There is a means by which you get that, okay? But then, isn't it important? Brahman realization is the ultimate goal. So Babaji is going to answer. The goals are different according to the different desires of the living entities. That we already saw that, right? And Bhukti do not think Mukti is their goal. And those who are Mukti, they do not think devotional service is their goal at that particular point. Okay? So those scriptural instructions are those who are situated at that particular level, in that particular stage of their life, or that stage of their particular soul in that life, in that advancement of that thing. So then they don't think until then, later, you know. So the path of devotional service is superior to the impersonal path. Ultimately, that's what the final answer is there, and that we saw in the previous slide, right? Initially, those who are in sense gratification, they think that is their goal. If I can enjoy, if I can $1 million, I can get $10 million, $100 million. Why not I become a billionaire? That is what their ultimate goal. Keep on increasing that. But unless and until when they realize material miseries, they experience, and there is undoubtedly is going to happen, then only their goal is changed to go to the next level. But ultimately, then they come to the bhakti platform, and then there is no more new goal. That the ultimate bliss, ultimate happiness is there. Okay. So the final conclusion is that the Vedic mantras is that the final goal is love of God. Yeah, these mantras are there, right? But that is, they are directed at a particular kind of people, particular class of people at their given level of intelligence. So don't be hung up on those mantras. Ultimate mantra is Om. The final conclusion of Vedic mantra is that the final goal is love of God, and the goal is attained by performing pure devotional service. Question number 3. Is it possible that the great Mahavakyas of the Vedas describe only secondary goals and means? Okay, now he's getting a little bit more knowledge. So now he's asking a little more intelligent questions. So because he was again dogmatized, Mahavakya, you know, Sankaracharya school, you know. So Babaji is saying the Vedas do not distinguish any particular mantras or are as better than the others. They are context driven, and they are directed at a particular class of people at their given level of intelligence. So there are no Mahavakyas like that in reality. To claim their doctrine, why do this Gyanis say like that? To show that their particular thinking, their particular doctrine is superior. So the impersonalists have labeled some mantras as Mahavakyas. But in truth, there is a sacred syllable Om. The Om representing Supreme is the impersonal way of thinking about it, okay? Is the only Mahavakya. And all other Vedic mantras are subservient, subordinate to that particular Om. So second point, one must consider everything as a whole and determine what is the final conclusion of all the Vedas. So remember, Karma Kanda is about 80 to 85% of the verses in Vedas are there. And the Jnana Kanda is only 10 to 15%. And the Upasana Kanda, Bhakti is only about 1 to 2%. So only those people who are exceptionally intelligent, those only they come to that level. So one who analyzes those scriptural statements of the Vedas, and again, I'm not citing what verses, Babaji reports that because of lack of time. And I've given you the page numbers. If you want to go ahead and look at it. We'll easily see that devotional service is described in the Vedas as the means to attain the final goal, ultimate goal. Question number 4, how can devotional service be the final goal of life? So Vishwanath is hammering that, when the goals are and sense gratification and impersonal liberation are satisfied or achieved, then are the means to get them discarded? Can we then discard devotional service? As is generally taught. So Babaji is saying, point number 1, Karmakanda section says that one should engage in devotional service to attain sense gratification. But that is Karma Mishra Bhakti, not pure Bhakti. You want to enjoy it. That is your main goal. And you're using devotional service just to satisfy the Lord, that please give me $1 million. My Lord, please let me enjoy. Let me see if that girl I'm attracted to, she also get attracted to me, like that, So for that purpose, they approach the God. So that devotional service is not pure. So for the sense gratification, it's a Karma Mishra Bhakti. Jnana is impersonal Brahman realization. It's a Jnana Mishra Bhakti. So Karma Kanda becomes Karma Yoga. Jnana Kanda becomes Jnana Yoga, like that. But nonetheless, both are mixed bhakti. And then there is a Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti together. So devotional service in Karma and Jnana, however, is not pure devotional service, but just the reflection of pure devotional service, or reflection of the devotional service. So it's a pratibimba, abhasa, illusion of bhakti, not real bhakti. So the reflection of pure devotional service, there are two kinds. Either the reflection of pure devotional service itself, or the reflection of mixed devotional service. So the reflection of mixed devotional service is again 3 kinds. One, the reflection of the Karma Mishra Bhakti, or it's also sometimes called Aropa Siddha Bhakti. Aropa Siddha Bhakti means artificial kind. The second kind is the reflection of Jnana Mishra Bhakti. And third kind, mix of both Jnana and Karma both. So all these reflections of devotional service are different from pure devotional service, where there is no selfish motives. Anya Abhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam Anukula Yena Krishnano Shriram Bhakti Ruchyate. That is pure devotional service. When you uncover those mental speculation, Jnana, and the fruitive activities, then that is called, then you come to the platform of pure devotional service. And that also what is favorable to Krishna. So mixed devotions are not the means for the individual's spirit soul to regain his eternal nature. Final question. What asking Mahaprabhu? So he's asking, has Mahaprabhu ever written a book on his teachings? And I would like to clearly study his teachings. So Babaji is answering, no, Mahaprabhu never personally wrote any book, but he did write 8 verses. That's called Shastaka. And these verses, in these 8 verses, the entire philosophy of devotional service, pure devotional service, is right there as a devotee, And based on that studies, his confidential associates wrote the books. And that is called Dasha Mula Tattva. The 10 Mula is the roots, 10 roots. And that again consists of Pramana and Prameya. Pramana means the evidence, and how you gather the evidence Prameya. And then it is threefold: Sambandha Tattva, Abhidhet Tattva, and Prayojan Tattva. That opens up the second part of the book. And that's where the chapter ends here. And we make the entry into the second part. Sharad Prabhu is going to conduct that. Hari. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Any
Krishna,
question,
Prabhuji.
comments? Haribol. I hope you guys all understood that. I got a lot to cover in limited time, and those are very important elements. I tried my best to simplify as much as possible. Okay, at the risk of oversimplification.
Yes, Prabhu.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prasad.
Another one. Hare,
Prasad.
wonderful question, Prabhu. So finally, it has been concluded Bhakti devotional service.
Ultimately,
Yeah.
there's no more further
Ultimate.
goal. No more further
Yeah.
goal.
Oh, yeah. One question, Prabhu. It has been mentioned, I think, somewhere, Om, yeah, is the
Om is the
everything
Om is the invoking the supreme, but Om is
supreme.
generally the impersonal aspect of Om means
Yeah.
Bhagavan is the personal aspect of it. You know,
Personal.
that's what it
Bhagavan
is.
is the personal aspect.
But
So I was-
all Vedic mantras, remember, they begin with Om.
I was always wondering why we are not chanting Om or anything like that, Prabhu, in ISKCON. So now I got
There also we say that. Don't we say in ISKCON, Om Ajnana Timirandasya?
Om, that is only one time. Yeah.
So many such verses, they start with Om like that, you know.
Om like that. But it is more of a calling Brahman only, but thinking about
No,
Brahman
it's
only,
not.
but
It's
more
not
of
Brahman. No, it's not Brahman.
Brahman.
Actually,
It is impersonal.
it's directly in personal way. It's just like you call, you know, you are my friend. No, Prasad Prabhu is my friend. So you are qualifying that, right? No, this person is my friend. But friend means it could be Radha Vinod Prabhu also. It could be Sharad Prabhuji also. Anybody, right? But then I specify. This person is Prasad Prabhu. This person is Radha Vinod Prabhu. This person is Sharad Prabhuji. Then I specify. So Om is like that, supreme. What that means? The supreme. Okay. But the supreme, like you said, it could be Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. But there is an indication that it's the Bhagavan actually, indirectly. I think Sharad Prabhuji can elaborate more on that. I hope I'm correct in that.
Okay.
Prabhuji, I have one point on this. All three potencies of the Lord are involved in this Om, Pranav Mantra Om.
Yeah.
Internal,
right.
External, and
because Om, when you Om is invoked supreme, and supreme has the three kinds of potency.
Yes, Prabhuji.
You are absolutely right. Thank you for bringing out that point. Important point. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I need a, it's one thing I like that mission, how the goal changes, and the changes only when they encounter miseries and they see no end to it, then only they change the goal. Like Karmi changed it to Gadism, Gadis changed it to, again, getting to a devotional service. How logically it has been concluded. That was really amazing. And I was also amazed, and let me, you are sure we can clear. As a Nimai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became a logician. He was teaching logician, right? In the early teaching.
Yeah.
I was wondering, why, Supreme Personality Godhead, teaching pure devotional service, and he was teaching an early the logician.
Well, Prabhuji, Krishna started Bhagavad Gita with what? He started with Karma Kanda, right? Because Arjuna was at that particular platform. He was confused about his duties. So he had to start from that level. Whatever see, you teach your audience from their level.
Their level, yes.
You notice Sadhguru when sometimes talks really great things, and many times I advise him. You evoke all this great flowery things, but please realize who you're talking to. Are they ready to absorb that? Are they ready to understand? Sometimes he talks about a lot of things, wonderful things he talks about, but he has to see who you are talking to. Are they ready at that level? So if you talk calculus to a student in the 3rd grade or 4th grade, he is not ready. So many times I advise Sarath Prabhuji, be conscious about that. Raise those complex topics when it's relevant and it's in context. That is what you have to do. So Prasad Prabhu, Radhavendra Prabhu said, let me make one other point. I also told you, right? At higher and higher level of intelligence, you learn higher and higher goals, right?
Yeah.
What goal for lower level, it becomes sadhana to the next higher level goal, right?
Yes,
But
yes,
where
sir.
does the intelligence? But where does the intelligence comes? Intelligence comes from the Supreme, right? So Supreme gives the intelligence depending upon when and what time, that time we need it. So the basal level intelligence is given even to bacteria, lower organisms, basal level, and so that basal level intelligence is given to everyone. But higher and higher level is given because humans are given higher level intelligence because humans have the capacity to differentiate because mind is there. And mind has the ability to distinguish right from the wrong intelligence. Okay, but even among humans, there are different classifications are there. More and higher level, and then there's a material intelligence and there's a spiritual intelligence. Material intelligence is given to survive in the material world. Okay, and then some people become laborers, some people become director, right? There's a gradation of that hierarchy there. But when you come to spiritual level, spiritual intelligence is again even much greater, several orders of magnitude. Realize.
Prabhuji. Prabhuji,
So
I
that
want to
bhakti, ultimate bhakti also comes from Krishna only, but he gives that bhakti knowing are we qualified. The first there's a Maya Devi does a job for him to screen us. Are we really qualified for spiritual platform?
Yeah,
So
makes
this,
sense, Prabhuji.
so
You
ultimately
mentioned-
intelligence also comes from Krishna, and that depending upon when we qualify for that.
Yes, bro. Yeah, sometimes we wonder why I don't have that intelligence. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that will be given when it is required.
So
or when we
intelligence
deserve it.
in the second
Yeah,
canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I forgot the chapter, early chapter. It's given there. There's a Bhagavan gives a continuous flow of intelligence. Continuous flow of intelligence. Look at what I'm doing. I don't realize where does it come, how the words come out of my mouth. It's like coming from the Lord. Because I'm doing it for his mission. I recognize that's not my mission, that's his mission, and for the purpose of his devotees. So automatically intelligence keep flowing unlimitedly. There's second kind of Bhagavatam. If you go and see it, you'll see that. Haribol.
Absolutely.
Any other points?
I'm studying second canto only.
Thank you, Mataji, Raksha Mataji. You are a great point of inspiration, really, for many of us. You have that thirst. I recognize that. I saw that in you, Raksha Mataji. The service, service, thirst of service, serving the Lord and his devotees. You have that.
This is for blessings of the Vaishnava Prabhuji only.
Yes, exactly. You
And my
are very
Shiksha Guru.
fortunate. Very, very fortunate person. So Sharat Prabhuji, now let me give it to you while others are thinking still.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Thank you, all the devotees. For the devotees, I have got some points before I say something on this. Firstly, I'll request all the devotees to join in the class about 5 minutes before the scheduled time. That is also very, very important, because I see the last devotee joins in after almost 15 to 20 minutes. Then the second point is the things will be starting after this Jaiva Dharma, that is the biographies, the Bhaktmal. I have already distributed the 14 biographies, and I have already given time when you have to submit the draft PowerPoints. Once you submit them, then we will convert them in the PowerPoint format in which we want to be presented. For that, we will have 1 month. Actually, there is enough time. I'll request those who have been allotted with the topics to study them, and you can consult me anytime for any material or guidance or anything. But do not use any the material which is not authentic. Anything and everything given in the internet that is not authentic at all, especially the Wikipedia and all that, they are not authentic information. They are just information only. Then today we were talking about this Omkara and all that. I'll speak a little about that. Then at the end, I'll cover the point what Charu Prabhuji was requesting yesterday to give the details about the Navakalevara, when the forms, the forms of Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and that is the four lords that is changed. That thing I will cover at the end. The first thing about Om, this is also known as Omkara or Pranava. And as you know, in Sanskrit, it comprises of 3 sounds, not words, 3 sounds, A, U, and Ma. And the usual attribute of Om is that it is no direct translation from Sanskrit into English. Then the impersonalists, they are happy to treat Om as an impersonal, formless representation of the absolute truth. Therefore, the Mayavadi will always openly chant Om, being careful to avoid such names as Krishna or Rama or something like this. And the Mayavadi might explain the theory of Pranava Om in the very many ways we should not know. But what does Omkara means to the Vaishnavas? Now the Goswamis of Vrindavana have analyzed this, and they say that refers to Krishna, the master of everything, and who means Srimati Radharani, the pleasure potency of Lord Krishna, and Ma indicates the living entities. Thus, Omkara represents Krishna, his name, fame, pastimes, potencies, and devotees, and everything else pertaining to him. Now, to the devotees, the Lord, there is no difference between chanting his holy name and reciting Omkara. For Krishna has stated in Bhagavad Gita, in very many places, in the 7th chapter, in the 9th chapter, in the 10th chapter, that Omkara is he himself in the form of sound. And just as Omkara is non-different from the Lord's holy name, it is also inseparable from the Lord's beautiful 2-armed Shyamasundar form. And Pranava Om is therefore used in the Vedas and Upanishads to address the Supreme Person, who is none other than Vasudeva Krishna. this is all about the Omkara which we discussed today. Then regarding the Navakalevara of the Lords here in Jagannath Puri, please remember that there is no fixed duration in which the deities are changed, but generally it is 12 to 19 years. And if I give you a history of last 440 years, in last 440 years, they have changed 25 times. And the last one was in 2015. And the next one will be on 2034. That we'll see, many of us may not see it also, but that is what it is. Now, why it is done, how it is done, what is the process, that is a very, very complex process which involves the changing. This I will cover in very brief. Now, this total festival, which is more than about 65 days, more than 2 months duration, this is known as Navakalevara festival of the Jagannatha. And as I said, it does not occur in every year. It is in 12 to 19 years. But in certain time, it also took much more, the longer period, like 30 years or so. I have got the details, I am not going into that. And in this, what happens, the new images of the 4 deities, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and Sudarsana, they are made on this occasion, and a lot of rituals are performed to install the images in the Ratna Simhasana. Now, Navakalevara is a unique ceremony of the birth and disappearance of the Lord in the world. And this word Navakalevara means the new embodiment. So it is also called the ceremony which goes for the periodical renewal of the wooden images of in the Jagannath temple. And this ceremony is very, very unique in many respects in Hindu religious worship. It doesn't happen with others. Now, the main principle adopted to fix the year of renewal is to find whether that particular year has 2 asadhas. Now, the other asadha, like the present year, we had 2 asadhas. And in 2015 also, and in future in 2034 also, there will be 2 asadhas. How the calculation goes on the lunar and the solar months, I will not go into the details. What happens in that, the first thing is the searching for the wood. Wood is also known as daru. The setting out in search of daru. In that, a sacred journey is for finding out the wood for the deities commences on the 10th day of the bright fortnight of the month of Chaitra, and the expedition starts by the orders of Gajapati king of Puri, and the temple servants who constitute the nucleus of the party, they are called Daitas. Now it is headed by the person who is known as Pati Mahapatra. And there are 3, the composition is also given for the 4 deities. The teams are different. Then what they do, they go to a temple of Durga, which is about 50 kilometers from Puri, and there they live for some time, in which the Devi, that is Durga Devi, in dream tells them where this wood is to be found. Now, once that is done, then they set out for those places. Now, there are various qualifications for this wood, like the tree which they are going to find out for Jagannatha, it should be dark in color and it should have main 4 branches only, and the mark of Sankha and Chakra should be there. And for Balabhadra, the color should be white and there should be 7 branches and the plow and the pestle marks should be there. And for Subhadra, it should be yellowish in color and 5 branches in the tree, and the lotus flower with 5 petals should be visible in that tree. And for Sudarshan, it is reddish in color and there should be 3 branches and there should be a chakra in that. Besides that, there are various other qualifications, like the trunk must be straight, pleasant to look, and the height should be 7 to 12 cubits, and the tree should stand near a river or a pond. There should be a crimson ground near the tree. There should be a temple dedicated to Shiva in the neighboring background nearby. There should be some hermitage not too far off from the place where the tree is located. The tree should be free from parasitic plants and creepers. There should be no nests of birds on the tree. Then the tree must not have been struck by lightning or nor partially broken before by any storm, or somebody should not have cut it. There should be an ant hill near the tree. There should be at least a few snake holes in the root of the tree, and one should spot a few snakes creeping around in the vicinity. And the tree should not stand alone, but be surrounded preferably with the trees, some other trees like the billow trees, and there are some other trees also. Like this, there is a long ritual in bringing these trees. They are cut and they are brought in carts to Puri. Then in Puri, there are a lot of rituals, how they are converted to the images, that is the deity forms, and thereafter how they are established, and thereafter how the Rath Yatra takes place, and up to the Niladri Vijay. This is generally in very, very brief and very short, in this short time, how this Navakalevara takes place. And if you see the recordings also and the other the accounts in 2015, you'll find them. And as I said, the next one will be held in 2034. Now the time is coming to an end. More things I will tell you later. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
From wonderful. A lot of things I didn't know about it. So very good. Thank you. This is the kind of knowledge we get from you, Haribol. Thank you, everyone. Accept my humble obeisances. All great to the Prabhupada. All great to Srimad Bhagavatam. All great to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. All great to all the Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna. So I'm going to request Sagar Prabhu to conclude the class, please.
Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obsession. All good to Srila Prabhupada. Namaste Narasimhai. Namaste Narasimhai. Pralada Dahine. Pralada Dahine. Hiranyakashipur Bhaksahar. Hiranyakashipur Bhaksahar. Shilatankar Nathale. Shilatankar Nathale. Ito Narsingha, Parato Narsingha. Ito Narsingha, Parato Narsingha. Ito Yami, Ito Narsingha. Ito Yami, Ito Narsingha. By Narsingha, Hridaye Narsingha. By Narsingha, Hridaye Narsingha. Narasimhamadin Saranam Prapade. Narasimhamadin Saranam Prapade. तव कल कमल भरे नखाद्भुत सिंहम दलित हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृंगम केशवदीता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव कल कमल भरे नखाद्भुत सिंहम दलित हिरण्यकशिपुर्तनुभृंगम केशवधीता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे। नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय, भक्त प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, चारु प्रभु की जय, शरद प्रभु की जय, गुरुदेव की जय, ऑल assembled devotee की जय। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण चारु प्रभु, धन्यवाद प्रणाम।
Thank you. Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. All good Srila Prabhupada. So I wish you wonderful, wonderful week ahead. And we all look forward to hearing Srila Prabhuji. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Happy Ekadashi to all.
Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat
Dandavat
Pranam Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you very much.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Kindly bless me. Today is my exam, Bhakti Vaibhav Canto 2.
Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
All
Hare
the best,
Krishna.
Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you, Mother. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Chad Prabhu. Thank you, Sharad Prabhu. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna. Dhanwad.
Thank you, Nitya Sakhi Mataji. Thank you, Sharad Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Saga Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Everybody. Hari Bol. Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful week ahead.